I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
Real-life families and, actually what's going on in the community, and it must be really challenging for you.
What if the moment that truly changed the British monarchy didn't happen on a balcony, or in a gold coach, or even during a coronation, but in a quiet room where almost no one understood what they were looking at? And what if the real handover of power in the House of Windsor wasn't announced at all, just felt like a shift in the air that the world noticed long before the palace admitted it? All right, royal watchers, grab a cup of tea or something stronger, because this one unfolds slowly, like a storm you can sense long before you hear the thunder. And you might want to hit that subscribe button now, because trust me, the twists ahead are wild. Let's dive in. It started with words, not fanfare. No trumpets, no flags whipping dramatically in the wind, just a blessing delivered under Westminster Abbey's ancient vaults, the same vaults that had echoed with a coronation only 2 years earlier. But this time, something felt off, or maybe too perfectly timed. You know when someone says something gentle, but the weight behind it hits like a sledgehammer? That's what this blessing did. The Archbishop spoke of responsibility passing not through blood alone, but readiness, and those in the room, especially the ones trained to listen between the lines, felt the ground shift. Then came the image, Princess Anne stepping forward with the newly commissioned Gerard & Co. crown, Burmese rubies, sapphires, diamonds, and enough history to make the Tower of London rattle. Not the heavy version, locked away for full state occasions. No, this was the lighter crown, the symbolic one, the crown meant for the moment before the moment. And she placed it on Catherine's head. Briefly, almost gently, but long enough for every royal correspondent, every historian, every political advisor, every Commonwealth leader, every royal watcher from London to Lagos to Toronto to instantly understand. This wasn't ceremony. This was direction. This was, we're doing this now. If you're still with me, make sure to hit like so this video reaches more fellow royal sleuths, because things get even murkier from here. Hours later, the new reality walked straight into Windsor. William and Catherine not as the heirs apparent, but the monarchy's beating centre. The crowd could feel it. You know that hush that rolls over thousands of people at once? They did that without trying. People held up handmade badges for the future William and Catherine. Kids handed Catherine little folded notes, the kind that probably had hearts drawn on them, and God Save the Queen written in tiny handwriting. An elderly veteran whispered, God bless the new king, and Catherine, without missing a beat, answered softly, God bless the king. You can't script that. You can't stage that. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the palace was doing linguistic gymnastics. This is not a regency, aides insisted. This is co-stewardship, which is palace speak for, look, the titles haven't changed, but everything else has. And then, the absence, Queen Camilla. Officially, private reflection. Unofficially, people inside the system were rubbing their temples saying, yeah, no, that's not exactly it. Her absence wasn't just noticed, it became part of the story. Even the optics were brutal. Catherine receives a crown from Anne, Camilla stays home. One woman embodies service, the other becomes a footnote in her own era. That's when social media lit up. Hashtag Queen Catherine soared. Poll numbers jumped. Global headlines ran the same photo of Catherine bowing to Anne as she accepted the crown. CNN called it the defining royal image of the decade. BBC called it the moment that changed tone and tradition. You can tell me your take in the comments. Was it symbolic? Was it planned? Or was it history slipping out before the palace could glue the door shut? Inside the palace, things were not peaceful. Princess Anne, normally granite-level stoic, suddenly became the monarchy's moral compass. She was everywhere. She was directing traffic. She was guiding Charles. She was steadying William. She was grounding Catherine. She was basically the royal Switzerland, neutral, calm, immovable. But Camilla was feeling the ground move beneath her feet. I'm not saying she was pushed aside, but the palace suddenly had a lot of temporary restructuring, and her staff suddenly had a lot of "thank you for your service, best of luck." Meanwhile, Catherine's schedule exploded. A children's hospice one morning, a quiet lunch with Commonwealth youth ambassadors the next. No fanfare, no cameras, no coronation dress. Just work. Work that mattered. One aide described the vibe perfectly. She doesn't announce power, she just uses it. And international press ate that up. France called her a new rhythm of royalty. Canada called it the restoration of trust. The US called it soft power in a tailored coat. Tell me your country's headline in the comments. I'm curious how the world saw it. Then came Sandringham. William and Catherine walking the grounds like they'd been born into that moment, even though anyone paying attention knows they grew into it, brick by brick. They spoke with volunteers, a gardener who'd tended those exact paths for 50 years, young scouts who were probably trying not to faint on camera. William told them, "The best service is the kind done when no one's watching." The irony is that millions were watching. Catherine knelt beside the elderly gardener and said, "He feels your prayers every day." It's the kind of moment that makes even the cynical people go, "Okay, that was good." And then the meeting, the private one. William drove to Raymill House to speak with Camilla. No press, no photographers, no leaks until after the fact. And reportedly, it was one of those conversations you remember for the rest of your life. William told her, "You'll always have your place, but the country is calling for renewal." Camilla's reply was almost whispered, "Renewal comes for everyone, and it never asks permission." That line went everywhere, and it hit differently depending on who you asked. To some, a warning, to others, wisdom, to royal watchers, confirmation. The era had shifted, with or without ceremony. Meanwhile, Catherine was building something bigger, preparing the Commonwealth Youth Forum not as a figurehead but as a leader. She rejected royal narration for the opening film. She wanted young voices instead. The final line of the film, "Leadership is not about who stands above, but who stands beside." She personally approved that, and overnight it became a global quote. When the invitations went out, ambassadors were instructed to refer to her as Her Majesty the Queen Consort Designate. That's not rumor, that's not tabloids, that's a bureaucratic title change. Royal watchers, drop your reactions. That moment alone deserves a documentary. The forum itself, Catherine and Anne co-chaired it like they'd been planning this since 1995. No robes, no pomp, no exaggerated bows, just substance. Catherine wore the lighter crown, the one made of recycled platinum and ethically sourced stones. She wanted them to represent not wealth, but continuity. Panels on climate, women's rights, education. Not speeches to young people, conversations with them. The final line of featured scene in it was Catherine listening, nodding, asking, not telling. Anne later said Catherine had authority that demands nothing. Even the king reacted. He reportedly watched the preview movie and whispered, "She understands what I tried to begin, only now it will endure." That's the closest thing to an abdication we've seen in decades. By Christmas, everything had quietly solidified. Camilla stayed away, Charles watched the service from Sandringham, and the Privy Council formally recognized Catherine as acting head of state for key ceremonial duties. Unprecedented, yet the public barely blinked, because people already felt she was leading. Christmas morning at Sandringham confirmed it. Crowds didn't just cheer, they reached for her as if she were already crowned. One woman whispered, "You wear it without needing to wear it." That's the kind of line screenwriters would kill for, but it actually happened. And then, this evening, the King gave a short broadcast thanking William and Catherine specifically, calling them the living heart of service. That's not subtle, that's not coded, that's a handover. So here we are, A monarchy rewritten not through a coronation, but through character, not through ceremony, but through service, not in a single moment, but in 1,000 quiet ones. Catherine didn't seize power. She was handed it, slowly, deliberately, by the people who understood the weight of it best. And William is the calm in the middle of the transition, the bridge between a king who waited his whole life and a queen who never asked for a crown, but earned one anyway. So now I'll ask you, what sparked this quiet shift? Duty? Destiny? A careful chess move behind the scenes? Or was it simply the right people stepping forward at the right moment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. Like the video if you enjoyed the deep dive, share it with other royal watchers, and if you want more of these slow burn royal mysteries, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for spending this time with me. Truly.